There's a phrasing that will stand out for me, and emotional OnlyFans is one of them. And I think it's really interesting, and it rings true. Like and it speaks to so much that I've been seeing in terms of surveys and in terms of stories the last few months, and just thinking about this sort of reality that we're in, where, and I wrote about this on my daily show a few weeks ago, which is basically, you know, now that dial-up is ending, I was writing about dial-up ending in for the AOL dial-up going dormant for the first time in 30 years. And that those people actually they could unplug from the internet. And the rest of us, it's constant. It's everywhere. It's all around us. We're swimming in it with every moment of the day. It's like air.
Or more like water. But yeah. Like if we were fish, it would be water. Yeah. But air, yes, totally.
So it's this inescapable reality. So the fact that we would, like, we're in an era where third places, actual physical places, are existing less and less. Part of my lamentation and woe earlier was I wish I knew where a good picnic was, because I'd like to go. I'd like to go hang out with people in person. But I think that's a problem that so many of us are facing that we're seeing less of those concrete places exist, or at least they don't feel like they exist. So what we're doing is that we're resorting ourselves online. And we're finding ourselves in those comment sections, in those Patreon subscriptions, those all swims where everybody hangs out with the host, and then people are talking with each other in the chat or whatever. It is this sort of thing that we're doing to fill the gap socially, even if we're not in the same room.
Well, the comment section is the new cookout. That is the picnic, and you can hopefully have it every week.
Agreed. The comment section is the new cookout.
Like Blocked and Reported, they do a weekly post that is just to get the audience, their audience talking to each other. It's just like saying, I forgot what they call it, but it's like, say anything, go off. They don't even, it's not even them.
Yeah. Open threads.
Right, exactly. And I think it's every Wednesday, and it's great. I mean, I look forward to it.
And on top of it, it speaks to this sort of yearning for people who are in the world to want to connect with others. And you just feel like, hey, if I'm not going to talk to my neighbors, and fewer of us are actually talking to our neighbors, if we're not going to have, I've seen stories in recent months, everything from reunions being down, family reunions, to places where you have things like cookouts and usage of lodges and all that stuff being down. All the stuff about bars and cafes, that down, largely because of inflation, some largely social as well. It's just we've groomed a generation, if not more, on online interaction instead of in-person interaction.
And also to be averse to the other tribe.
Yes, well, that as well. Like, in that there are so many of us who are afraid to sort of just of the idea that we're going to encounter ideas that are not our own. That idea, and not just not our own, but that ideas that we might be offended by.
Well, that are anathema to being good people, that are a threat to
not even just that, but like we might be.
Mm. Yeah.
Like it's not even like, hey, this is definitely out of bounds. No, if I go in this place, I'm going to find stuff and interactions that will no longer nowhere near my perspective. Therefore, I'm just not going to do it. I'm
Hmm.
not going to put, that kind of risk. It's one of the interesting things to go off on another tangent. I was thinking about the Democratic Party and how they have been, especially toward the tippy top, have been more reluctant to de- dive deep into the podcast game in the long form conversations. And Kamala Harris, demanding that Joe Rogan like shorten his interviews and then move his interviews to her.
Hmm.
And it it then hit me. It was like, oh, they're just afraid. She's afraid that you won't have complete control over the conversation and narrative over 3 hours because you can't. That's one of the things that's beautiful about that show is that you kind of have to just go in there and swim. You gotta have a dexterity, and if you don't have dexterity, it's not going to go well.
No, I think you and I may have talked about this on camera last time,
Maybe
where Dave Smith talked about this because he used to work at CNN, or he used to do
yes,
some sort of
yeah,
roundtable
he did
discussion,
CNN.
and he was talking about this specifically after this happened with Kamala, and then when JD Vance did do the podcast rounds or did do Rogan,
Hmm.
and
He does it regularly.
he said that a Kamala Harris just couldn't have a 3 hour spontaneous conversation off the top of her head. And he said he was struck even back in his CNN days that these people that he was, on these panels with could only speak within that really compressed format, and that they had nothing else beyond that. Almost like they had not envisioned a media like environment where they would have to. And yeah, I don't know why the Democrats haven't come up with. I mean, Sanders was doing it for
Well,
whatever that's
look,
worth.
look. I think Bernie. One thing's that Bernie and Bernie has been on Rogan, I think, twice now,
Hmm.
and one went really well, one didn't. And he lived to fight another day because it was sort of. I think Bernie, and I think most of I would hope most of these politicians have this, but Bernie definitely has this. There's a core set of beliefs that he has, and he is not afraid to walk into the room and express them. Come our way.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, you would think that people who have the gift of gab could could dance spontaneously on the spot. And also, I mean, you're talking about a politician who's from the era where you went into enemy territory all the time. That was part of the job. And now, of course, we have a whole new mindset. And
Mm-hmm.
we can't blame kids for this. You can't blame
Yes, down the low.
millennials or Gen Z, because adults are buying into this hook, line, and sinker where they don't even want to know their neighbors, and they feel this sense of threat. And I see this more in my social circle, which leans overwhelmingly towards sort of the stereotypical quote unquote progressive, well-meaning Democrat. But I imagine it's the same. There's that the same on the other side. And
Sure.
I don't want to go off too much on a tangent here, but I recently learned from my guy Professor Pete, who lives in
Shout out
North
to
Carolina.
Professor Pete.
Yeah, lives in North Carolina. Now he lives in Raleigh, but he told me this story. This is related. He told me a story about how his daughter, who's 16, was with her 17-year-old friend who drove his daughter to the mall. He gets this call from security. No kids are allowed to be in the mall. No under 18, no minors are allowed to be there. I think before 3:30 or after 3:30 or something, unaccompanied by an adult. And he was like, "What the fuck?" Like he was like, "Dude, like her friend has a has a learner's permit or a junior license," um, and he was like apoplectic at this. And he told me this story about how when he was growing up in New Jersey, he was 11 with his 11-year-old friend and his little brother. I said, "How old was your brother at the time?" He goes, "He was 8." They rode their bikes through 4 different towns in northern Jersey. They were gone all day long until
Hmm.
the early evening, and not once did their parents know where they were. This is way before cell phones.
Sure.
And the contrast there, and so what I'm getting at is I asked him, you know, I wonder if this helicopter, we have to be on top of our kids, transcends political division. He said it absolutely does. He said what you see among blue people is a fear of like hurting anybody's feelings, and they have to coddle their kids that way. He said, but conservatives are obsessed with this idea that the world is unsafe, so they
Hmm.
want to keep their kids from it. And now he's in a very blue area of North Carolina, but I was really struck by that. I was like, holy shit, that sounds really like way beyond the pale. He said this is across the board. He goes, this is a generational thing of like not wanting our kids to be exposed to anything. And you and I have touched on this a little bit, but
Yeah.
I've been pushing against that in myself because you just have to. You can't go down that spiral. And I was just surprised that this phobic aversion is you see it across the spectrum. And I'd be really, really, really curious to know what parents who identify as libertarian, if they live up to that, if they have any different of a philosophy in how much autonomy they give their kids.
I would imagine it would be some variation on the same themes.
Yeah, I would think so too. I would
That
think
that
so
it
too.
Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't think it wouldn't. I don't think if you. I know a few libertarians with kids, but I don't know enough of their parenting style to say for sure.
I don't think that's a good predictor at all of whether. I don't think your political orientation is a good predictor at all of how much your ideals actually filter down into where the rubber meets